Thank you.
How's your day been going so far, right? How's the conference been treating you?
The conference has been great, lots of great discussions, and really enjoyed the panels this morning. Machinkura, Bitcoin Data, hash rate up. Those have been the big ones for me so far today.
Yeah, live and kicking. It's been my first time in South Africa. I mean, live and kicking, and it's been my first time in South Africa, so I'm enjoying. It's a high signal conference. So yeah, going great.
Yeah, it's been actually amazing for me. I've always been looking forward to come to South Africa, considering the fact that they denied my visa twice last year.
Second time lucky, eh? Third time lucky.
Yeah, so I'm actually really happy, and it's been awesome, actually. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's going great. Loving the weather. Hopefully we get some beach time in later.
So, Rai, you and Dr. Kushbu find yourself on a panel next to each other again.
Yes. Yes, of course.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to this.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, so we're going to kick off. Just if you can introduce yourselves, please, just your history and where you're coming from in the Lightning space.
Sure. I work as global BD for IBEX, which is we call ourselves a financial settlement company that leverages Bitcoin Lightning, not a Bitcoin company doing financial settlement. We think there's a distinction there. And we primarily offer API toolbox for companies, wallets, exchanges, neobanks to handle multiple different applications within the Lightning capacity. So we have split payment optionality, regular Lightning, stable fiat accounts, etc. And it just allows people to onboard to the Lightning network relatively easily without having to deal with any of the complexities of running your own node or funding your own channels, etc. So we are, I guess you would say, a cloud service Lightning provider.
Hi, everyone. I am Khushbu Khullar, the venture partner at Lightning Ventures. Lightning Ventures is a US-based VC firm, and we invest in Bitcoin-native startups. So far, we have invested in 40-plus companies. And apart from this, we have another platform, which is Thunder Funder, where even non-accredited investors can invest. So if you're building something groundbreaking in Bitcoin, Forth, OpenAI, do reach out to us, either on LTNG Ventures or thunderfunder.com.
Hi, guys, again. My name is Megasley. I work with African Bitcoiners. African Bitcoiners is basically a community of Bitcoiners that actually exist to guide new Bitcoiners to the space, basically. So we guide them from learning about Bitcoin to self-custody. I am also the general manager at Africa Free Routing, which is basically a company that focuses on improving Lightning adoption in Africa. We do a lot of stuff to actually get this done. We run Lightning nodes. We run webinars on how to run Lightning nodes. We also do Lightning bootcamps, actually, and we are having one here in Cape Town this weekend. So yeah, that's basically it. Thank you.
Cool. I run a small exchange here in Cape Town called Cape Crypto, the Cape Crypto Exchange. We have Lightning integrated, and in fact, we're the only South African exchange that does have Lightning integrated. We integrated about maybe 2 years ago now, and still waiting for the rest of the exchanges to catch up.
You might be waiting a while.
Still waiting.
So shout out to Cape Crypto. My business actually moved over to purchasing Bitcoin exclusively from Cape Crypto exactly because they had Lightning integrated. We left Valor. We just got tired of waiting. And yeah, you guys are doing great work.
Thanks, Ray.
So my first question actually goes out to Leon. So can you please just give me your experience about building your own Lightning stack and what that has been like as opposed to going with a cloud-based service like using IBEX, for example? What's it been like?
It's okay. The integration itself wasn't too bad from a technical point of view. Operationally is where it's burdensome. I think. Cool. Thanks. Yeah, from an integration perspective, we started with CLN. For those of you who don't know, there's basically two providers, CLN and LND. And they both interface with the Lightning Network, and they both offer their own sort of suite of integration tools. We integrated with CLN first, and we made our way through REST, gRPC. Both were very unstable at the time, unfortunately. So we moved over to Lightning Labs as L&D and integrated with REST. That was also flaky. Then we went into gRPC, and since that, it's been very stable. So sorry for the technical terms, but essentially in the end, we're running very stable and haven't had any issues since. It's been a year since we've been on L&D. This time last year is when we went live with it, actually, just before the conference last year. It's okay. The challenging aspect is obviously managing the balances, and particularly for an exchange, the idea is when somebody sends Lightning to us, we have to credit Bitcoin into their wallet. But of course, that Lightning, that Bitcoin that's on the channel, it's still in the channel. It's not like it's available unless we close the channel. So in a sense, we manage that. We're like, brokers of the Lightning network. And so if the channel gets lopsided, we have to then rebalance it the other side. And if it gets lopsided on the other side, we have to do an on-chain send and rebalance. So it's a bit of funny management. There might be a cooler way to do it, but that's how we do it. But yeah, otherwise it's been great.
So just talk me through, so there seems to be quite a lot of headaches involved with running your own Lightning stack. What's the reason for doing so? Why run your own Lightning stack rather than using a custodial Lightning solution?
Well, I suppose...
And sorry, please feel free to get as philosophical as you want to here.
It's a bit early in the day, but I'll try. Ultimately, we are a licensed company. We're a licensed exchange in South Africa. We report to the regulator. Whether that's good or bad, it is the way it is. And so we have an obligation to protect our customers' funds. We have to hold on to the keys. If you're using an LSP or some other custodian, the trust goes to them. And there's counterparty risk all of a sudden, which we can't guarantee, of course. This has been a problem for many people. We've seen a lot of companies go under from this counterparty risk. Celsius, et cetera, et cetera. Revix locally had an issue with that. So we prefer to just hold the keys ourselves and take the responsibility ourselves.
That's a great answer. Megasley, so from your perspective, Africa Free Routing, you guys are doing something quite similar in the sense you're running your own stack. What's your experience been like?
Yeah, so for us, I'd say it's actually been quite a ride, starting Africa Free Routing, and from the experience I've seen, you see, we all it's no news that Africa needs Lightning basically, but then when you look at the map of Lightning Node maps basically, you realize that it's actually really, really scanty, right? We don't have Lightning nodes. We don't have people running nodes in Africa, their own nodes, basically. And they are all just relying on the custodial solutions that we give to them, tell them about Lightning Network, and then you're introducing people. And I think one of the reasons why this happens is because it's actually hard to set up a Lightning node. It's a little bit too technical. And aside from the fact that it's technical, getting the stuffs you need to get nodes set up in Africa is hard. You have to get them imported. And then also, there are also some other challenges that actually makes this a problem, right? So when you talk about internet connection, we don't really have a very stable internet connection in Africa generally. So we decided to start Africa Free Routing. We started around mid of 2022. So the goal was actually to lighten up Africa, get Lightning nodes that are here in Africa as well too, and then add to the Lightning node maps. And it was actually a tough experience from the beginning, considering the fact that all we had at the time was just the passion. The skill was not there. We've never run a Lightning node before. I had never run a Lightning node before at the time. As a matter of fact, I didn't know anything like Lightning node existed, right? I came into the Bitcoin space afresh. But then I had to go deep into like researching and learning and studying. Shout out to BTC Sessions, and also shout out to Ministry of Notes YouTube channels. Those were the people I reached out to, and they were able to assist, and also to Nate from Voltage. They sponsored our very first node when we started, and I got into the rabbit hole of learning about setting up Lightning node myself. And luckily for us, it was good. We were able to set up our first Lightning node in Nigeria. and we launched it around January of 2023. And since then, it's actually been great. We went on to set up another node in Kenya. We went up to set another one in Ghana, and the last one we set up was actually here in South Africa. But the challenge we had at the time was that these nodes were running on private servers actually, that are actually hosted here in Africa. And unfortunately for us, early last year, we got hacked through the VPS server we were using, and our funds were stolen, right? And because of that, we decided to bring down the nodes we were running, all the nodes we were running, because we basically used one VPS server in Africa. So we had to bring down all the nodes. And then we are currently still looking for ways companies and places we could partner with to try to set up nodes locally, because at the end of the day, like you said, it's better when you are sure that you have the keys yourself, and then you're able to, be fully responsible for it. Not when you're running a node on a VPS server, it means you're trusting them with your private keys as well. So yeah, that's how it's been generally.
Just for people who don't know what a VPS private server is, can you explain the difference?
Oh, a VPS cloud server. So it's basically just like having your own machine running on the cloud, basically, like a Linux machine, basically. So that's what we're using, having a Linux machine run on the cloud. So instead of setting up the node yourself with your local machine locally, you're able to access those machines remotely wherever you are, and then you're able to set up Lightning nodes there and set up whatever you want to set up, basically, and run things there. And then also it's easier because then you don't have to worry about, internet connection to keep your nodes online all the time. It is on a VPS server, so it's their responsibility to keep it up all the time. And then you're not worried about the node, the reachability of the node as well too. So, and downtime as well, because especially in places like Nigeria. I remember when I first set up the node, it was actually running on a laptop, an old laptop I had in Nigeria there. But we had this challenge of electricity challenge. The light was not stable. The network connection was not very stable as well too. So because of that, we had some challenges, people reaching the node when they wanted to, and also the node could easily go offline because the power in the laptop is not enough to power it for like a whole day, and you don't have light all the time. So because of that, we decided to move it from like running it locally to the cloud. So yeah.
So the problem you face here, I guess, is that you have sats committed to a channel, which are effectively living in a hot wallet, right? Where you've got sats in the channels, which are sitting on a hot wallet, and that's why when it gets hacked, it can get stolen, right?
Exactly.
Right. So have you guys recovered from that?
Yeah, we are still recovering. Actually, we are still recovering. It was a big hack. We lost a lot of funds, and considering the fact that we were actually bootstrapping, we didn't get funding from anywhere. It was the funds we had to run Africa Free Routing that was stolen. And we are still looking forward to, thankfully, we were able to, not as Africa Free Routing, right? Like I said, I work for African Bitcoiners, and Africa Free Routing is one of the products that we built from African Bitcoiners, right? So we were lucky to get a grant from HRF as African Bitcoiners, not really as Africa Free Routing. But then from that grant, I think it's been a little bit supportive to what we've been doing. But then again, we are still looking, we are exploring other ways. We don't want to run nodes on the cloud anymore, right? But we want nodes that are resident here in Africa. So we are looking for other means. We've spoken to some people, especially someone like Eric from Gridless, so we could use an infrastructure like that to set up node locally and, just see how it goes.
So just talk me through the service that Africa Free Routing offers. I personally have used you guys' service when I was setting up my business. But just explain to people a bit what it is that you do.
Yeah, so when we started initially, it was basically just running Lightning nodes and then selling channels, right, to other node runners that require inbound channels, inbound liquidity, right? We provided the liquidity for a fee. At the time, it was just 10,000 sats for 1 million sats channel. And Then aside from that, we also did some, like I said, webinars, right, to teach people that were interested, because we had a lot of people come to us in Africa when we talk about running Lightning nodes. A lot of people came to us asking about how they can set up and run Lightning nodes, right? So we needed to give them that information. So we set up a platform where we did like a monthly webinar for people that are interested in running Lightning nodes. And then aside from that, we also reach out to businesses that want to accept Lightning payments, right? They want to accept Bitcoin payments, but then they don't really know how to go about it. So we guide them through the whole process of setting up Bitcoin payments in their businesses. We set up the infrastructure for them as well to help them fully set and then give them all the information they need to get it running. And aside from that, we run Lightning boot camps where we train developers. We are not really focused on developers that are already in the ecosystem, so we are extending to developers outside of Bitcoin ecosystem, right? We know there are lots of developers out there that could actually build some cool stuff. And you know, when it comes to adoption, utility is one of the things that drives it the most, right? And when we talk about products like Tando, right, it was somebody that thought of that and then was able to build, and now everybody is talking about it. Now we figured out that the best way to actually get this adoption, growing as much as we want, is to train developers that are already maybe in like the fintech space, or people that are already outside of the Bitcoin space, but they have some coding knowledge. We bring them and then we host 4 days, 3 days boot camps, and then train them on how to build on Lightning Network. And like I said, we are having one here in Cape Town this weekend. So, sorry, I'm marketing. In case you know anybody that would like to join, then of course you can meet me after this presentation. Thank you.
Great. Okay, we're going to switch gears over to Rai. So you guys have industrialized this process somewhat at Ibex, and you're doing this at scale. Can you just speak to exactly what it is that Ibex does and how you're offering Lightning channels as a service?
Yeah. I think these guys did a great job explaining why someone might want to not run their own Lightning infrastructure. And that's where we come in. If you are...
That's the cheap shot, eh?
No, not at all. I keep getting accused of these. What's the, No. No, there are traditional companies, traditional fintech companies, traditional businesses that don't necessarily want to get into the realm of running their own cloud services. So what do they use? They use Amazon Cloud or Google Cloud, right? They stick to their specialty. I would say that Ibex is similar in the sense that if you're a traditional fintech remittance company in South Africa, you may not want to learn the nitty-gritty of setting up a node, funding the channels, balancing the channels, figuring out all that nitty-gritty. I personally don't do any of that. I'd love to say I have the technical mind like Leon here. I do not. I have a team for that. And I'm very lucky. I call them my little Wizard of Oz team. They're behind the scenes. The payments go through. We have big channels, big payments go through. And if our clients want to send very large volumes, they can do so. And that's another thing that sets Ibex apart from, I would say, other LSPs and why we don't call ourselves an LSP. Again, financial settlement company. It's because when we give you, or when you use our Lightning infrastructure or our Lightning APIs, you are just plugging in some APIs. You are getting channels that are already funded. So when you want to send money, you don't have to fund your channels, balance your channels, do any of that. You don't have to close any channels. We also are large enough where we have a large on-chain balance and a large LN balance. So if our users send LN, we don't have to then close out a channel to rebalance. We can just send from our on-chain balance and balance it out on our side of things. So it makes things far more efficient. Obviously, there are the risks of the third party, Ibex going down. Hopefully, we are in a safe enough place. We have a very strong security team. Our CTO comes a very strong security background. It's kind of his number one thing over Lightning. We actually have another team for the Lightning stuff, and our CTO is primarily focused on security of the operation. So all that to say, it is a mix between, I would say, doing it yourself, which is very safe, but in the middle of someone like Voltage giving you a a node and you having to set up your node and fund your own channels and taking on that risk and knowing how to do that. Yes, you're using an LSP, but you're doing all the work. We take all the work away from you. You use our APIs. You start conducting Lightning transactions.
Right. And I think the distinction here is important. It's not that you and Leon are doing different things. You're doing the same thing, except you're not focusing on being an exchange as well. You're just focusing on running Lightning. And maybe that's kind of the point of this discussion, is that running Lightning nodes is a professional industry and requires talented, experienced people who know what they're doing, especially when you're dealing with other people's money and providing it as a service. And so I want to push this over to Khushbu. As someone who's looking at investments and as a VC, when you are looking and evaluating different options that come through your pipeline, how do you think about this when you look at someone who's running their own stack versus someone who's using an LSP or someone like IBEX? How does that factor in for you?
Before answering that question, in fact, I want to highlight one point. We're a big fan of Lightning Network. That's why the name itself of our VC fund, Lightning Ventures, is from Lightning Network, because we believe in this L2 solution from the day of inception. And as far as your question is concerned, so if I talk about two modes, there is self-hosted mode where you can run your own node. Then there is, on either you can run on cloud mode where you can, run it in the cloud and provide service via APIs, which is known as the Lightning service. If I take a step back and answer the same question from an investor perspective, I would say we bifurcate the companies. Type 1 would be Lightning Dev Tools, example, Neutron Pay, Breeze, and then we have Lightning Infra companies like IBEX. Third would be Lightning service, where you are using Lightning service to build, another core value proposition. On this example would be Flash or Strike. So these are, the type where we look at. And in fact, the reason for this is because, like, for us, Lightning Network is the mainstream L2 solutions in terms of, if I talk about also TVL, the total, value locked in BTC terms, if I talk about the 2024 numbers, in fact, it was around $387 million in BTC or 6061, so it's something that, we generally focus on, and this is how, and in fact, if somebody is building something around it, please reach out to us. Or in fact, even you want to share something and enlighten me, I would love to, learn from you guys, especially you. I mean, there's so much to learn. Yeah.
Fantastic. Leon, so having built what you've built with Lightning and having interacted with it, on a very granular basis, what do you see as the big picture for where Lightning goes? What do you see as the killer app for it? Do you think it's just being able to withdraw and deposit to exchanges, or do you see Lightning, solving bigger problems than that?
Yeah, I mean, the fundamental is solving the issue of slow on-chain transfers, slow and expensive on-chain transfers. So I suppose the ultimate future would be a payments network that it just wipes out Visa and MasterCard, etc. I mean, that's what it should be doing. How to get to that is the million-dollar question, because like everyone's saying, it's very hard to run nodes, and if you don't run them yourselves, it's like, why do we really need to compete with Visa and MasterCard if it's not actually decentralizing the financial network? So then you take it a step further and you say, okay, fine, maybe I will run my own Bitcoin node, or at the very least hold on to my own keys, fund a Lightning wallet once a month, and then make payments from that Lightning wallet. So I would probably see that as the future, where people don't carry around credit cards anymore. I know there's lots of cards floating around the conference, which is very cool, but it would probably just end up being your phone, making payments with that. It's a payment network. It's a payment network. That's how I see it.
Great. And what are the risks that you see here from a centralization perspective of people not running their own Lightning nodes and relying on companies to do it for them?
I mean, it's such a good question because LSPs essentially are custodians, and I think a lot of people don't recognize that. You've got some LSPs who are very cool and they actually put the private keys onto the app. I think Phoenix does it. I don't know if Breeze does it, but I think Phoenix is the only one I'm aware of at the moment where you can actually go and get your private key to that wallet essentially to get your funds. Otherwise, you are beholden to the LSP. They hold your keys. And it's a little bit dangerous, and I'm not necessarily pro-regulation, but it's interesting because people are trusting these LSPs with their keys and their money versus trusting an exchange who has accountability. A licensed exchange, if I run away with the keys, there's problems. You know who I am. But an LSP, it could just pack up shop tomorrow, and there's no accountability.
So from an investment perspective, if there's a strong centralizing force and there's an economy of scale and there's, like with IBEX's model, for example, where you can bring fees down really low and make it really attractive to use an LSP or to plug into Lightning as a service, are we not facing a kind of existential threat here to this capture of the Lightning network where it gets so centralized?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely. And ultimately, is it really solving the problem of decentralization?
And the real question here for Khushbu is that makes investment sense, because that's going to make money. But is that good for Lightning? And is there a counterbalancing force here from an VC perspective? I mean,
from a VC perspective, we see there is I would quote 2022 numbers, which says there is a TAM SAM of around, the market sizing of cross-border payments, remittances is around $150 trillion, which is still 80% of it's being captured by the banks, which is using the old age 1973 SWIFT technology. So we need, these two modes. And I think, it's high time we connect, on this internet age, we are connected, digitally, but not yet financially. So I see a greenfield opportunity here. There are some companies doing it. But I think if we have more companies like IBEX, it becomes easier for a new company to start. You need not to have your own developers. You can start lean. So that's the way forward. And we can have more companies, and it could solve the bigger problem.
This is an issue close to home for me. So for Orange, we've partnered with IBEX, and IBEX handles our Lightning channels for us. And that's great because it means we have to really not put a lot of time and effort and money into managing our Lightning side of things. Because that, if you're a startup, it is quite expensive. But I am concerned about the centralization risk. And I don't think it's a solved problem at all. And is there, Ryan, maybe you can speak to this, is there some kind of model where both can coexist, or is it a winner takes all? Long term, what do you think happens?
Yeah, well, I want to circle back on a few things of where I see Lightning going. I think Lightning is the SWIFT replacement, period. Visa, MasterCard, sorry, it's going to be that. I firmly believe that. I believe that is going to be companies like IBEX that push for that wider adoption at scale amongst institutions because they are not going to want the complexities of running that internally. That being said, I think I need to go back to what I mentioned about the channels being funded by IBEX. We're not requiring our customers to fund their own channels, right? So the Bitcoin in the channels is our Bitcoin. So when you send fiat to fiat through IBEX, it's only being momentarily held before it's sent out of our infrastructure, if that makes sense. Your money is hitting our infrastructure, going through our infrastructure, and then back out of our infrastructure. Now, of course, if you're a wallet like an Osmo or a wallet of Satoshi or any of these Lightning wallets, and you use our infrastructure and you're just using our infrastructure for Lightning and not fiat, well, then if you send Lightning into our infrastructure, yeah, we're holding that Bitcoin. It's ours. Yes, we have the keys to that, but you can also go into your infrastructure at any time and pull that out at your own free will. We could close up shop and leave tomorrow. We have no plans of doing so. And then on the decentralized nature of it, I think that we should probably be more concerned about maybe the Lightsparks and the PayPal mafias of the world than the smaller guys in the room. And I also think if we're replacing the SWIFT network, we're about 1% load of the pie. There are going to be a lot more LSPs popping up in the next year or two around the world. This is going to be divided and more decentralized than I think we think. The fact that there's only 2 real Lightning infrastructure companies, or kind of what IBEX does in the world. We have other Lightning LSPs, but I would say kind of the unique service that IBEX does. There's really only 2 folks that are trying to focus on this money logistics, fiat to fiat issue. And there's a lot of room for growth in there. So if we expect this to replace SWIFT, I don't see this being a big issue of centralization, but we'll see how it plays out. And one more thing. A lot of people talk about holding their own keys and hosting their own nodes. Well, there are people that also use Proton Mail. It's about 0.5% of the world. Everybody else uses suites like Gmail. They use the easy tools that are accessible to them for their business. They don't try to spin up their own cloud infrastructure and make their own emails and Proton and this and that. It's just what it is. Do I think that we will move more into a world with more nosters and more decentralization, and maybe it's 50% of people use Proton and 50% of people use Gmail? Yes, I believe it will be more of a balance. But as things stand, people want what's easy and what they can, how quickly they can get to market, how complex it's going to be for their team, how many additional resources do I have to hire, or do I want one dev to plug in some APIs? And so those are the questions that need to be answered, and I'm not super concerned about the centralization like you.
Yeah, well, it was super easy to integrate your API, so I'll tell you that.
There you go.
And this service works amazingly. Yeah, guys, with that, I think that's it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.